Hi everyone and welcome to SSW User Group here in Sydney. And I'm super glad to be finally in person in Sydney talking to an audience for this user group, as it's always a joy for me to come back to Sydney. Now, what we're going to talk about is how to clean up, how to keep your email tidy with AI. And this is a very important topic for me and for a lot of people that I listen to. They whinge about emails and how many there are and how hard it's managed. And hopefully this will give you some inspiration of how you can keep your emails tidy. The talk is going to be a bit more inspirational on the AI and a little bit more how you can take very powerful AI and find out of the box solution to solve a very difficult problem. Now, first off, I am Jernej Kavka, but you can just call me JK. I'm SSW Solution Architect as well as AI Microsoft MVP. And you can follow me on GitHub, Twitter, my blog, and you can also find me hosting Global AI Podcast, AI Hack Days, very different user groups. And as the work that I do in the daytime is .NET Core and EF Core for my clients. But at night, I really like to hack things in AI with ML.NET and now OpenAI GPT-3. Now here we have an app, SSW Rewards. So if you're interested in getting some rewards like Xiaomi Mi Band, you can scan this code over here and you can download the app. And at the end, I'm going to show you a QR code where you can collect points and then get some rewards. All right, so the way we're going to start this is I'm actually going to start off how I solve mundane problems, because that's going to give you a bit of an insight of why I even started doing this thing. Like, why would somebody try to use a highly advanced AI to try to solve a problem that is really difficult when you can just check emails every day, right? Everyone would say, why don't you just check emails? And then I'm going to explain you the struggle. Why some people may struggle, because not everyone understands why people may not might not be able to clean up their emails easily. Then we're going to talk about the current solutions that are on the market. And lastly, we're going to talk about how I solve some of the problems with OpenAI. All right, so a few disclaimers. What works for me may not work for you yet. And my struggles with emails might be a joy for you, and that's fine. This is about exploration of how you can use OpenAI to solve complicated problems. And even though this may not solve your problem with email, you can imagine how it can solve a lot of other problems. This is a very out-of-the-box thinking AI talk. So we're not going to talk about custom machine learning, and we're not going to talk about specifically for cognitive services and similar solution. We're going to use a very advanced AI to ask it to solve problems for us in a very creative ways. And also, we're not going to talk about history, science, and psychology because we can talk about for days. But if I'm around, you can buy me a beer and we can talk about it for hours. All right, so I'm not the person that solves mundane problems in the most sensible way. And I love that. What that means is, just for introduction, how I used to manage timesheets in the past and now. So back then, I basically done everything in batches. So I done them 1 hour before deadline, and I kind of forgot what I did that particular week. And everyone just told me, why don't you do them daily? And I was like, you're right, I should be doing daily. So what I did to do this daily is I went to Dynamics 365 and I downloaded all of the appointments. Then I got all of the commits from Azure DevOps and GitHub, because most of our work is in Git. And then I created my own custom AI, mostly if statements, but still AI. And I basically figure out how to generate my timesheets. Then I created an API call to the TimePro. It's our timesheeting system. And voila, 95% of my timesheets were automated for the last 4 years. Sometimes I even forget that my timesheets are generated without me doing anything until Friday, where it's just like, yeah, everything looks right. Now, these were 2 small incidents where the managers actually noticed that the category was wrong for one particular timesheet. They quickly fixed it, and yeah, everything worked really, really well. And it works so well that that is now a feature in TimePro as suggested timesheets. And you know, it started off, why don't you do timesheets daily? Well, why do timesheets daily if they can be done automatically? And similar problems I deal with things that are a little bit harder to solve, like we need to deal with finances, right? And in order to figure out how to save money, you actually need to know where the money is going. And this was back in 2016, where not every app had literally this particular feature I'm going to show you, but this is how I solve quite a few more problems. Like for instance, we have bank transactions on the left side. We have just the names, and what I really wanted is the categories of those bank transactions. And back then, there was no really good solution for it, especially not personalized. So I did what every reasonable person would do. I took my bank data, put it into a mobile app, manually classified every single bank transaction for years, and then at one point I was just like, that's enough. I'll put this into a CSV, and that CSV goes into my own custom machine learning lifecycle, which means I have a training data set that is literally the data I'm getting from the mobile app. I do use the machine learning training algorithm. If anyone is interested, ml.net, which results in a machine learning model, which then does API calls to update all of the mobile apps that I'm using to manage my financing. And you know, sometimes mistakes happen. The category gets misclassified and things like that. So when I update this in the mobile app, that gets returned back as feedback, which improves the data, which then goes back into training data, and the life cycle continues. So in about 2017-18, I literally created my own machine learning life cycle just so that I don't have to spend every week for 30 minutes manually going through all of the bank transactions to verify that the categories are done right. So this is a bit of an insight how I solve problems, and you might start to see how I'll look at emails, just a constant stream of data, and you know, there's not much automation going on there. But let's start off with struggle. So why people in general struggle with emails? Well, have you ever received I hope this email finds you well? Did anyone receive that? Yeah, we have a couple of hands. Well, my first thought is, how does this email found me? I don't want to be found. So yeah, the problem here is emails is a lot of organizations. It requires a lot of manual labor. You need to sort all this endless stream of emails, and God forbid you take a break, because then everything goes out of control. Like, how many of you just takes a few days off from work and you are greeted by lots of emails when you come back? Yeah, it gets out of control pretty quickly. And you know, you have the inbox zero, right? The inbox zero is about about rules and advice on how to deal with this kind of situation. And it may work for you. It does work for many people. But the sad truth is, it doesn't work for everyone. And the sadder truth is that a lot of people who, for whatever reason, cannot stick with inbox zero, and it might not be their fault. They feel blame, they feel shame that they cannot keep up with emails, that that there's something wrong with them because they just cannot get everything done. And what's worse is they put a lot of effort into making it work, but very little return of investment. And even if you do manage to get to inbox zero, this is not where your battle ends. It's where your battle starts, because it requires constant management. It never ends. And a lot of people say, yeah, just unsubscribe. Well, my clients won't be happy if I tell them, hey, I want to unsubscribe to your emails. And also a lot of internal work that you have. They might not be too keen for them to tell them, hey, I want to unsubscribe to all of these work emails. So for work, you cannot really unsubscribe, because a lot of the information you get, quite a few of them, you actually need to read. You might not need to respond, but at least need to be aware of it. And also, it doesn't work for personal emails always as well, because there's a difference between not wanting to get any promotional emails and wanting to get the promotional emails, say, on Sunday and read it for Sunday or before fiscal end year or things like that, right? When you get lots of promotions and you want to get a new laptop, like mine just died a few minutes ago, and you want to buy a good laptop for cheap. So why do we struggle in a more specific way? So one of the reasons could be volume of emails. Some people might get one email, some might get 100 emails per day. So there's a problem of scale. Everyone's input is different. There's also a problem of high noise to signal. What that means is, imagine that you're getting a lot of emails on your personal email for, say, social media, from Facebook, from Twitter, then promotional emails, and then one of the emails in that huge mass is your notification for visa, which tells you that if you don't upload this document within 2 days, your visa is going to be rejected. That email is the signal, but it can get lost in the noise. And it could be a high impact if you missed that one email. So you really don't want to lose important emails. And there's also a lot of decision making when you receive an email. Now, you may need to respond to an email, but do you need to respond it today? Do you need to respond it next day? Do you need to make research before you can respond it? Is it important? Can you just do it next week or even next month? It could be that the email needs to be responded, but not by you. So there's a lot of things you need to think about for every single email. Now, for some people, that's easy. But this is where we're coming to different brains work differently. Now, it sounds reasonable, sounds logical, but not many people think that people may actually think quite differently from others. And that's called neurodiversity. So for instance, you might, the middle path over here is what we're calling is neurotypical brain, which is kind of average for organization, for creativity, for out-of-the-box thinking, and lots of different things, time management. And then we have and they're about 80% of all population. And then you have more neurodiverse people, which have a bit more of an extreme of how good they are at specific kind of thinking. So they might be really good at solving problems, but terrible at organization and time management, both skills highly required by emails. So if they have problems with those two skills, they will struggle. And we are at the point where here we have a response from an OpenAI system, which is imagined as one of the most advanced AI chatbots, where we can ask, why is it so hard to keep up with emails, even if you follow Inbox Zero and check email regularly? And it can tell you why. So first off, we have constant stream of information, what we already mentioned. It's easy to miss important emails, and you might end up spending too much time spending with emails instead of doing other stuff. So this is an AI telling us we have a problem with emails. So why don't we solve it if even AI is starting to telling us that? So what can we do to solve this problem? So there's a couple of things, and I'll just highlight a few that I believe could solve the problem, and I'm going to show you toward the end some of the examples. Automatic rules. So right now, most of the rules are either designed for general purpose. So basically, they're trying to make it work for everyone, which, you know, if you have a very specialized emails that coming in, might work completely wrong. But instead, what we should look into is how to semantically understand the email and then categorize based on that, and then tag them also based on that. And figure out its importance, not by whether the sender decided whether it's important or not, but by actually reading the email and determine if the email is important or not. Does it needs to be tackled today or not? And that could help us then build rules, which then also can help us with moving emails into correct folders. Now, another one that is very important for me is summary of the inbox. Now, when I go to work, I don't have time to read all of the email while I'm walking, but I can listen to a podcast, right? And you have a feature in Outlook where you can actually play your emails, but usually they take somewhere between 30 minutes and 120 minutes. And I don't want to listen that long to emails. And what AI can potentially do is reduce each email to only 1 to 2 sentences. So when we try to convert that into audio, we're not going to need to listen for 30 minutes. We might need to listen just for 5 minutes and get the same gist out of them. And lastly, and I won't tell you boss about it, it can assist in responding to emails. What that basically means is, say that you're getting an email from a client that is a wall of text, and you're like, how do I even begin to answer that email? And here, the AI might be able to help you at least getting started. Or for instance, somebody made you mad, you wrote an email about it, and then you're like, okay, the content is right, but the tone isn't. So you could potentially change the tone of your email so that it keeps all of the important information, but the tone changes of the email. So it doesn't look like you've written the emails while you're passionately mad at someone. All right, so what are current solutions, right? So I looked at Outlook. This is a very popular tool. How many of you are using Outlook? Majority of the room. So Outlook has a good feature called Focus and Others. And this is very great because what you can do, you can just say, hey, this email is not important to me, move it to other tabs. Now, technically speaking, it's still in the same inbox, it's just separated into 2 different tabs. And in the focus, you have your focused email. But again, if you want to separate your client emails, or if you want to have your internal emails separate, that doesn't quite help you. And another thing that is really, really cool, and I actually really like, is Microsoft Viva. So this one, what it does, it actually goes through your email and looks up task within the text that people are writing to you. So for instance, here I have Penny. I send her an email saying, hey, we're out of sparkling water. And later on, she sent me an email, hey, can you check the gauge under the sink? I forgot to do that. So Microsoft Viva actually reminded me, hey, you still need to do this, which is really, really cool. Now, what I notice is that our company has a very specific format of the emails. So we're actually numbering our tasks. So they're very clear of what you're supposed to do. And I'm not actually getting many of these emails, probably because they're numbered and very clearly defined. But when I do get them, they're very useful because our clients don't do that. Another one is Gmail. How many of you are using Gmail? We got a few hands. So what I really like about Gmail is it expands the idea of focus and others. You have primary, promotions, social updates, forums, which is really, really good. It's for personal email. This is great. But when you want to add, say, bills, or you want to say for tax returns and stuff like that, as far as I know, you cannot expand this. And also another problem that I find with this is that first off, we don't use Gmail at work, we use Outlook. And the other problem is, how do you even set this up? That I have gone through the settings and I haven't found much. Maybe I haven't dug deep enough. Maybe a paid version does solve this problem. But for free, I haven't really found it. And also, it's not where most of my emails go to anyways. And then we go to the AI apps. Now, a few months ago, I was just like, you know what, before I spend months on this, which I literally did, let's just first look at existing AI apps. You know, how hard would it be for a company to put some effort into it? And, you know, they could put a paywall and I would be happy to pay for it if it solved problems. But what I found is that most of the AI email inbox apps, they're just better spam management. They basically, they're like Gmail that also works on Outlook, essentially. And also what I found is for all of the email solutions they have with advanced AI, they're very, very vague on what they offer. And they always give you only the option of requesting a demo. They don't actually allow you to just say, yes, you can try for free. Just log in and connect your email. No, they always request you demos and they're always very vague of what they actually offer. So I haven't put here any examples because I haven't found anything good after, I think, 2 weeks of looking for a good solution. And also, the last but not the least, if you cannot find a software tool that can solve the problem, you can solve the problem by just making better emails to begin with. Now, we have rules to better emails, and they're really good. You can check out the link over there. And what that does is it gives you lots of different rules of how to better write emails, and it makes communication heaps better. Like how I hinted before that our tasks are actually numbered. We also have rules that if you talk to a person, then you send an email as per our conversation. If you want to change content from something to something, you can have a consistent way of saying, change from this to this, right? But this doesn't actually solve all of the problems because most people don't know about these rules. So you are helping other people better deal with emails, but other people don't help you deal better with emails until they start to follow the rules. And it doesn't solve all of the problems. Like you still have the problem of maybe too many emails going into your inbox, maybe you take too much time to organize your inbox, and all of that stuff. And there's a lot of things to read. It's about 70 rules. But you can watch a YouTube video, which is only 4 minutes long, and it has more than 10 most important rules that you want to know for better managing your emails. Well, better writing your emails. And I highly recommend you to check them out. All right, so I looked into the current solutions that you can try out today, and some of you are already using. There's some things coming up in Outlook, well, Office 365. They're still in preview, and some of them I'm not allowed to talk about them. But this is roughly the state we are currently in. But the next one is the next frontier of AI, is the OpenAI. So what is OpenAI? So OpenAI is a research lab where it was founded by Elon Musk, but is now being led by Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Tesla, and many, many other companies to essentially build a machine that can learn and reason like a human mind. And it is designed to solve virtually any task that involves human language, and it's expanded now to even go beyond that. It now understands programming language. It supports essentially music, anything that can be kind of described with language. And one of those projects that you might have heard from OpenAI might be DALL-E. This is where you can just write some text, and based on that text can generate your images. If you're a developer, you might have heard about GitHub Copilot, which can give you code suggestions based on the code you have. You can even write a comment, what you want to write, and it can then generate a code based on that comment. GPT-3 is what most commonly is used, however, is a large-scale AI model, and that is the model that allows you to use natural language to do chatbots, to actually do questions against specific content. It's what powers GitHub Copilot, DALL-E, and lots of, if you've seen some virtual assistants on the mobile app stores, they are likely being powered by GPT-3, especially if they're smart. And what we can nowadays do is convert natural language into whatever code we want, whether that would be programming code, or even it could be binary code, could be music, whatever. It is getting really, really good. And it's now also going to be trained in the other direction as well. Now, more examples that you can use for OpenAI would be, what we can use OpenAI, specifically GPT-3, is it can understand our questions and our intent behind the questions. That means that we can give it a content, and based on that content and our questions, it will try to find the best answer. Now, you can have that content being an email, it could be an article, it could be code, and there's a lot of experimentation now to be even music. So you could make questions about music, or even ask it to change the music. So there's a lot of excitements coming out in that direction. And one of the coolest things that I really like about OpenAI, you can generate stuff. And what I mean by that is I can generate summaries, and those summaries are really good. They're not the executive summaries where you try to find the best sentence from a content and then put that as your executive summary. It actually goes through your content and tries to figure out how to summarize it. In some cases, it's amazing. It can suggest you replies to emails. You can say, hey, I want to reply to emails saying that I haven't done something, but make it polite. And what it will do the best it can to politely say, hey, I haven't done that. And in some cases, the results are equally hilarious as amazingly human. And sometimes like so good, well written that I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to just send that. It's just amazing. And as I mentioned earlier, kind of hinted, it can change your tone, which, you know, if you have someone who really passionately writes emails and you're like, hey, you probably shouldn't send that, you need to change your tone or remove all of that stuff, AI can do that for you. All right, so how can we use OpenAI for emails? Well, first is classification. Now, generally speaking, how classification works is it tries to find keywords, right? For promotional, it might look for sell or fiscal year or, you know, something in marketing, right? But what OpenAI allows us to do is it allows us to more naturally ask a question about something like, does this email require a quick response? Now, how do you do that with keywords? You can have lots of different keywords, but what OpenAI does, it tries to understand the actual email, and then based on that, it tries to determine whether the email requires a quick response or not. And that gives you a much more powerful way of classifying emails. It can summarize, you can do Q&As. So you can have, for instance, you have lots of emails and, you know, in the titles, you don't have specified what project the email is about. You can literally just say, hey, what projects each individual email is about, or who needs to respond to this email, because you might be in the to section, so it was sent to you, but you might not be the person that needs to reply to the email. And OpenAI can understand that. And as well, doing responses to, drafting responses to the email. Now let's start doing some demos. Now what I'm going to show you is this website over here. It's beta.openai.com playground. And what you can do here is you can just you can just write things in and click submit, and you'll get answers from the AI. So you can ask, how can AI help us manage emails, right? Why should we think about how to solve problems if we can have AI that solves it for us? Now here, it's actually a pretty long answer, but what you can see here is AI can do sorting and filtering emails. It can automatically respond to emails, and it can create new emails automatically for you. Awesome, right? We can just ask emails how to solve all of our problems. And this is how you can try out and see how you can solve problems with AI. And this is not training, by the way. We can do custom training based on your specific problem. This is out of the box what we're getting in OpenAI. So for instance, what I can do is I can remove this part over here, and I can say summarize. So summarize in 2 sentences. Summarize in 2 sentences. Yeah. Live demos are not always good. Thank you, Adam from the audience. Sometimes what helps when we do this is new lines. Not quite sure why. And here we have a short description of the text that we have over here. And we can see, in general, AI can be used to help manage emails more effectively in a number of ways: automatically sorting, filtering, responding to emails, and creating new emails. So basically what you see here is, in just a couple of sentences, we have the gist of all of that. Now keep in mind, this is all generated by AI. I just done this email, I was just thinking 5 minutes ago, what would be a good example of this? I have done one in NDC and I was thinking, I want to have a different one. I haven't tried this one and it worked. So what can we do with this? I have a few examples. So classifying emails, for instance, we have Fitbit, and I have here, your battery is low. Now, it's an arbitrary email. I just picked it up because it was interesting that period of time, because what I wanted to see is how the AI responds if I just put a subject for it to figure it out, and how it would look like if I do a full content. So here, for instance, I ask, how would you classify the email subject, your sense battery level is low? The answer, in short, is a system notification, which is a very fair assumption. Now, here, what I've done is, on top is the question. I basically copy-pasted the whole email into the playground, and what you can see is the resulting response is Fitbit notification. Now, what you might notice is that in either case, we did not have the word notification in. We did not have the word system in it. It figures those things out on its own. And let's go something a little bit more complicated. Response, is it required? Does this email require a response? Yes or no? Yes, it does. I needed to add a QR code for the very talk we are currently at, and the response to it is yes. Now, a more important question is, do we need to respond to it quickly? And yes, these emails need to be responded quickly. So now imagine if we have automation, we're starting to be able to get some insights. What about who should respond to the email? So here I have an email from Adam about a urgent time pro feature. It doesn't matter what the feature was, it's redacted, but the important part is it was sent to Lou, but it was meant for me and Lou to answer the email. As you can see over here, we have, hi Lou, do with JK. So with that part in the brackets, do with JK, it actually managed to figure out that it's both of us that needs to respond, even though it was only sent to Lou and I was CC'd. So if you have a more complicated email where there might be more people that need to respond, the OpenAI might actually catch that. And if you're still not convinced, say you want to generate an email for our previous email that we talked about QR codes. So in this one, I need to again add a QR code to the slide, and I need to also test it if it works in the SSW reward tab. Well, the response is, hi Camilla, thank you for sending the PowerPoint template. I have added slide 1 and 2 to my presentation and QR code in slide 2 with QR code attached to this email. And go on and on and on. I showed this to Camilla. It wasn't quite the standard format that we usually do, but she actually thought that somebody else wrote this email for me. She didn't suspect that an AI wrote this. So she said, yeah, it's a pretty good email. It doesn't follow the formatting, but it is good. But she said it's a little bit wordy. So, okay, so I said, okay, let's make a bit of a challenge. What if you try to modify the response that we to Camilla and say, hey, I actually want to have it a little bit casually. So, a little bit shorter email, a little bit casual tone. And let's just say the QR code didn't work. right? How it would respond to that. Hi Camilla, the QR code in the template didn't work for me. I was able to get the reward app installed, but the event points QR code didn't give me any points. Now, what's amazing here is it didn't just tell Camilla, hey, the QR code doesn't work. Well, what it also said is, I tried all of these steps, and the last step where the QR code needs to be verified failed. So essentially, it understands that these things needed to be done, and the very last part failed. And when I showed this to Camilla, she was like, oh yeah, that's a good response. And then I told her, well, that's generated by AI. She was like, what? And yeah, some of these responses are really, really good. And, we can do summarization. So here is an example where I said, summarize it into sentences. And it says, the email contains a PowerPoint template for a presentation on QR codes, as well as instruction on how to use the templates and QR codes. So that kind of describes the email. There are a few details skipped, but if I want to figure out really quickly what this email is about, it's actually a pretty good description. And this is an email that for some reason didn't end up in junk right away. It's a phishing attempt. Not sure why it didn't go straight to the junk, but OpenAI understands that it is phishing. So you can use to detect spam. Okay, but this is all cool. How can we use this, right? This is cool to explore these features, but I want to use this in my email. Well, the way we can do this is by generating rules that automate, for instance, tagging. So, for instance, you can have different kind of questions about email, and if they're positive, you can tag those emails with specific tags. This would allow you to give you insights of what the email might be about. Does it need to be responded quickly? Does it need to be responded by you? Does it seem to be important? And all of these kind of questions can be tagged for you. So when you open your email, you could color code all of those tags, and you can quickly see this one is this needs a quick response, and I need to respond that. So this is the first email I'll tackle today. And also can help you organize your inbox. What I mean by that is, why don't we just automatically move all of the emails that are not important, or say promotional stuff, just out of your way. So that kind of how it would work is, you get an email in, you have an engine around where it can capture the email, ask various questions to OpenAI, and add tags to each individual email that comes in. And another example of how we can solve problems of emails is natural language rules. So right now, if we do rules for our emails, the way we need to do is based on strict conditions. You have, if it comes from this sender, or if you have this particular subject, or it contains this particular word, then move to some other folder. Like for instance, if your favorite shop is sending an email, move it to a promotion folder. But you need to specify the email. So when the number of promotional emails that you get from different stores increases, you need to manually add each individual email, or you need to update those rules to capture all of those emails. God forbid if you use too vague subject contains, and then you start moving important emails into promotion folder. You don't want to end up there. But what OpenAI may allow us to do is more natural questions. Like instead of saying, if it's coming from this email, what if we could just say, if email is promotional, then move it to promotions folder. Because then you're not saying it needs to be from this specific email addresses. It doesn't mean that it needs to contain these specific words. It means whether the email looks promotional, right? Does it try to sell you something? Does it try to tell you, hey, there's some bargain going on there, you should check it out? So it's a lot more human way of looking at email and human way of organizing, but done automatically for you. So example here is you get the email again, you ask various different questions and to the OpenAI, and if any of the questions you get a positive answer, and because the answers might be a little bit vague, you can use sentiment analysis to figure out whether it's positive or negative, then you execute the action. Now, we have talked about quite a bit of what we could do and a lot of good stuff about AI, OpenAI. There are a few things that you want to know about OpenAI before you try to push everything here and just make everything work for you, right? There's a problem a bit in inconsistency of format that you're getting back from the AI. So for instance, that might sound weird, but all results are usually in natural language, which when you talk to an AI is actually a good thing. But when you're trying to write an automation, and every time it kind of gives you the same answer, but you know, as a human, we never truly say the same thing twice over time, you might have a problem because it would say, yes, this is true, or this email would be this classification, right? It is telling you yes, but in a very roundabout way, in a more human way. And if you're trying to do automation, that could be terrible. But there's a way to solve this problem. So you can write a custom machine learning model to basically try to get from a response, like this is a promotional email, to actual tag or category promotion. Now, that may take a little bit of effort to make it work, but trust me, this is a lot easier than trying to get a machine learning model that works anywhere close to OpenAI. So you're ending up with a significantly smaller model that just basically tries to figure out whether what is the response mapped to, than having an AI that actually understands your problem. You have a much more sophisticated AI that understands your problem. You're just trying to understand the answer that you're receiving back. So yeah, in short, it's still much more easier than trying to solve your own problem. So the pros and cons, other than the formatting, is what you have seen right now is no training whatsoever. I haven't done any training, I just used it as it is, which is amazing. It's super cheap to build. Like we have all the stuff that we have shown over here. So if I say, what is AI? And I submit, if I find the button, where are you? View code. And let's go JSON. So this is all you have to send to the AI. Here is the text, right? And then you get the response back. This is literally it. That's your API to access a very powerful AI to get all of these questions and answers answered. You are literally leveraging one of the most powerful AIs we currently have and are publicly accessible. And you can stop thinking about how do I build a custom machine learning to solve a specific problem, and start thinking more in direction, what else can I solve? What can I can bring the data and just ask questions about that data and trying to figure out do these questions, stored and data, actually give me some good insights, right? You're no longer trying to find a complicated solution for a problem. You're just exploring what the solutions could be. And GPT-3 is going to improve over time. And there's a lot of work right now for GPT-4. I heard that it's going to be much smaller, much cheaper, and much faster. And we get this basically without changing any code. And you know, some of the answers might not be particularly great. I might do a quick demo a little bit after this. But you know, for all the faults, you can actually make custom training. So, you know, this is done all without training. Imagine how much further we can go with just a little bit of training. Now, there's a few bad points. That you have less control of results. The response format can be inconsistent. Now, if you have hundreds of emails, thousands of emails that you want to process, it's going to be a bit more expensive. Now, it's not super expensive, but someone from my own pockets, it's not the cheapest service around. And GPT-3 right now has restrictions of how to use it. So they want to restrict the GPT-3 access because it's so powerful. So they don't want spammers to get access to this and then generate billions of emails that looks plausible. That would be very terrible. So you might struggle to get access to the API, but once you get the access, and hopefully it is ethical, that you can then start to solve great problems. So where I am currently with solving the email problem. Well, I initially spent about 3 weeks on making my own custom machine learning model. I then realized that actually it's more like 4 or 5 weeks with all of the planning, but you know, lots of time went into it. And I have built a system where I can actually get emails in and start processing them. And I'm still working on handling emails securely in such a way that I can share code to everyone and not worry about people's email getting compromised. But then I dropped most of it because my custom machine learning, even after 3 weeks of work, didn't get anywhere near OpenAI. And I was just blasted away, not just because it was better at classifying emails. It could do so much more that would take me probably months to get anywhere near that. And now I'm working on prototype v2. So if you want to steal my idea, you can use it as long as I can use it for free and it works. So you're welcome. And also, Azure OpenAI service just recently opened up. It's currently in preview and you can sign up. There's a quite big form that you need to fill out in order to get access, mostly to make sure that you're not doing this for any nefarious purposes. But it is much cheaper than going from openai.com. So in summary, we have existing solutions, but only solve part of the problem. But the AI can bridge the gap in your inbox management. In fact, it can go far beyond that. So whatever you might struggle, it might be your organization, might struggle a little bit with writing emails, or maybe you just want to be more efficient at doing your emails or any other mundane tasks. AI can bridge that gap. And OpenAI is such an effective and easy to use tool that it's almost scary. And here we have QR code for anyone wanting to get some rewards. You can scan the code. I will leave the slide at the end. Thank you. Yeah, any questions?
Yeah. Um, on the last of couple pages, you mentioned you were training your own machine learning models against the OpenAI
Yeah.
to classify the emails. Just wondering, what's the amount of emails you were planning to use to train your models?
So I was planning to use about 50,000 of my own emails and then manually classify them. And at about 10,000, I realized how crazy that is. And I still tried to go through it and see how well it works. And it did work well for the existing one, didn't work well for anything new. I tried to use existing open source solutions. Most of them were specialized in doing spam, not exactly what I wanted. I wanted to be able to figure out things about email, not just, you know, is it this or that? And it turns out that it is better, but not by that much, really. Especially because the emails that I'm getting, especially work ones, um, they are not publicly available, most of this kind of emails, right? So most of the training data doesn't include this kind of emails.
So did you do the category things by yourself? Tag
Yeah,
the emails
so I
yourself?
did multi-class classification. I started with ML.NET. It's a great tool, but once you get to bigger models, I switched to the Microsoft Azure, was it Microsoft Machine Learning Studio, if I remember correctly from my head, which you can then just run it on the cloud, but which did yield a lot better results, but nothing near to OpenAI. Yes, we have a question over there.
Yep. I get the impression that the speed at which AI is improving seems to be accelerating. So my question would be, do you think there's anything a human can do that an AI will not be able to do given, sufficient time, maybe another 50 or 100 years of development?
So one thing that I believe AI won't be able to do for a very long time is to enjoy life. So yeah, with AI, we might be able to focus more on enjoying life.
JK, great presentation. I was wondering if this gave you any ideas beyond this email scenario for clients where you thought, oh, that would have been handy for past ones or future ones?
Yes, so basically, what we have is spec reviews, right? We go to a client and we're trying to figure out what is their problem, what is their architecture, and all of that stuff. We're trying basically document as much as possible about what we're trying to build for the client and why. Now, what I found a problem is when you're just being dragged into a project and you don't have a lot of time to catch up on, saying you just go on for a day. AI could help us, distill some of the information from the spec review, and potentially even from the documentations and other sources, perhaps even video. And that way, when you go to a client work project, you can be more on top of what needs to be done, what's the history behind the features, without actually spending hours reading all of the documentation. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, great presentation, JK. I like what I'm seeing, and I like automating, categorization of my email and also the stuff like that. But if I have 10,000 emails to categorize, I'm not very confident in AI. And how do you, how do I know it's going to be greatly categorized and there's no
Yeah.
cracks in the thing?
So when it comes to OpenAI, and this is a very good question, I'm starting to look at the answers more like they're coming from a human than a machine. So humans do mistakes, right? Therefore, OpenAI makes mistakes. So how do we deal with human mistakes? Yeah, this is just going to be on a much larger scale than what we are used to. But I think the closer we're getting in using general AI, the more we need to think about almost like it's a human entity. It's not quite human entity, it's not sentient, but the mistakes could be very human because it learns from real human responses. Yeah.
JK, you've spent a bit of time using Azure Cognitive Services. You did Sophie Hub and bits and pieces there and other business apps. What's the difference between cognitive services and these other text AIs?
So the difference is the cognitive services are specialized in solving very specific problems. For instance, form recognizer is specialized only in forms, like it can do picture OCR on the forms. It can read texts and figure out based on the structure of the form where the text is, but it won't actually understand semantically what the form is. And you have text analysis, which can understand grammar, can give you keywords, and can give you some insight on the text, but will not understand the meaning of the text. There's nothing in cognitive services that actually understands the meaning of the text or meaning whatever content you put in. And that's the most powerful thing, is it understands the meaning, the intent, and it can act upon it. It can give you a response.
Okay, awesome. Let's just say I want to buy a present for a developer, and I'm not sure, say, whether Callum would like a science fiction book or a documentary book. How much data do I need to give it from Callum to be able to work out what book I should buy him for a present?
Okay, let's ask, what would be a great gift to a developer?
Could you give a URL to his people page?
Potentially in the so what you can do, you could specify lots of different telemetry about Callum, a lot about information about Callum, and it could try to figure out from people who are similar to him to give you a great gift. I think it would take quite a bit of work because, how do you get those personal interactions into text?
Let's
right?
just say I've asked him and he does like science fiction. Do you, Cal? Okay. So what would be a great book to buy a developer who likes science fiction?
That likes sci-fi, and let's add something else. What do you like? And YouTube radio. I have no idea what's going to respond, but that's part of the fun. High quality headphones. I mean,
It's not bad.
it's not bad choice. I have a few questions on YouTube before we move to the next question. So we have here, if I do custom training, am I only training the model for me, or am I training it for everybody? So you are training only for you, for your API on the OpenAI. What I've shown is the model. So here the model is Text DaVinci 002. That is available for everyone, but you can actually branch out of this model and create your own. And that one is accessible only to you. So could I use it to look at an email invoice and get it classified the email and attachment to determine the purchase type, like stationary, computer hardware, computer software? That is a very good question, and it depends on whether it's whether you can actually look at it from the content. Like if you say there's a Logitech mouse, it might be able to detect it as a computer hardware. So potentially, yeah, I would need to try it out. And we have a question over here.
Yep. So I've been playing around a lot with Stable Diffusion, which is basically an image generator using AIs, and all you have to do is like type in some prompt words, and then it generates an image for you. What do you think about the controversy that's raging in the community at the moment about copyright? Do you think the copyright belongs to whoever just puts the prompt in there and gets the image, or do you have a different opinion?
So usually what happens is the creators of the AI will already tell you what is the copyright of the AI, so what they generated. And I think, if I remember correctly, DALL-E allows you to use the image as long as you don't sell it. So it's free to use. And there's a couple of AI generators, I don't remember the names. What they tell you is you can sell it, but you need to be upfront that it's been generated by that specific AI. So you cannot just generate it, go to an auction and say, I did it. Or, you know, the author doesn't want to be specified. You need to be upfront that it was generated by that specific AI.
Yeah, it's cool that the people who create the models say that, but what about the fact that the models themselves are trained on copyrighted images belonging to other people in the first place?
That is a very interesting question, and I do not know the answer for that yet. Right now, GitHub Copilot actually is in process of finding that answer out. So maybe we'll know, but this could take years before we get a final verdict.
Maybe we can ask the AI.
So this is a good question. So what is the difference between machine learning and AI? So machine learning is basically a specialization of AI. So AI is just artificial intelligence. Now, depending who you ask, it could be anything from if statements that look smart to deep learning that solves the most difficult problems we face as humans, like, for instance, DeepMind. So it's everything in between. And machine learning specifically is a process how machine learns. So you have some data sets, and based on a training algorithm, it tries to learn its rules, how to basically get up to an answer. Hope that answers the question. Any other questions?
I don't think we've got any more questions, JK, so thank you very much, JK. I know there's a lot of work there. You're amazing. I remember the first time I met JK in Slovenia. He was amazing, and I've loved working with you for so many years. So I think that's a wrap. Thank you, everyone in the audience and everyone back home. And this is SSW TV signing off for this month. Cheers.